There's a question in mind. Is inking just tracing? On the face of it, inking is tracing, but it can be so much more when you practice and advance your inking skills, the techniques, different inking techniques, such as hatching and cross hatching and stippling and other sorts of inking techniques. You can really advance your drawing. Outlining all your pencil sketch drawing lines, like I'm doing here with ink, is usually the first step, the one that I do. But then beyond that, or even during this process, you're changing the structure of the drawing, you're altering things as you're going along. So it's a long process, but it's a process that I like when I'm drawing. Other artists may like this process as well. You're not always going to get a perfect drawing at the inking stage, but it's about applying the ink and creating textures along the way. That's mainly what inking is. It's advancing your drawing, expanding on the original sketch you did. So in many ways, inking isn't tracing. It is in a way, because you're tracing some of the lines, but you're trying to make a better drawing as you're going along. So there is that. This drawing that I'm doing, it was an idea that I probably drew quite a while ago, of like hands ripping into like a skull or something, but this was more like the fingers are like, I don't know, absorbing into the skull or something. That was the sort of thing I was aiming for. So yeah, so inking is a lot more than just tracing the initial lines that you've sketched. You need to work out a lot of the dark areas and light areas, where the light source is coming from, things like that, and really make your drawing a lot more detailed, and by the end of the inking process, a finished drawing. So there is that one. Different inking tools, like I'm using a thick Sharpie marker there just to add in lots of dark areas. I use that a lot. It's good to use different tools, different pens, mix and match, even paint and things like that. So yeah, definitely inking is not really just tracing at all. It's a lot more. You're just going in and creating more of a finished drawing, and one that needs to be worked on more. Because if you didn't work on it more, it's just become just a quick sketch. I mean, by the end of this drawing, it needs a bit more work. Could have worked on it a little bit more, but that's any type of drawing really. So if you've watched a lot of my other videos, you'll know that I use different ink pens. I use like cheap gel ink pens, Unipin ink pens, various sizes of them ones. These Pigma Microns I use. I haven't used them for quite a while, but Sharpie markers, different size Sharpie markers, black paint for large painting in black areas, like usually backgrounds and stuff like that, or drawing ink, things like that. So there's many ways to apply ink that you can add to the drawing. So it's, yeah. So as you can see, like the drawing's becoming more defined. It's like any type of inking that you add to a drawing, it's going to create more definition, more form to it. It's going to make it more clearer as well. Obviously, with the black ink, it's a high contrast, and you just working it out on the paper and seeing if it'll work. Sometimes you work on an ink drawing and it may not come together at all or something. It might look not as good as you intended, but that's part of the process really. I've worked on a few drawings that no matter how hard I tried to add loads of detail and things like that, it just didn't come together for whatever reason. That could be down to the sketching stage, or the early sketching stage. Maybe the drawing just didn't work out as good as intended or something like that. But having said that, the early stages of a drawing, when you start to ink, you always have doubts about it, whether it's going to work out, or whether it's going to be as good as what's in your head, the image that you have in the head. It's like it's an evolutionary process, inking. You get better at it over time, or at least I've found that you do. You sort of pick up different ways of applying ink and things like that. This bit where I had ink around the eyes and stuff like that, it's alright to change your mind now and again about certain things along the way. That's part of the process. So quite soon you'll see me fill in the top whites of them eyes, because I wasn't really happy with it, the eyes and stuff like that. So I wanted to make them recede more and just let the eyeballs stand out. So you're changing things along the way, as you're going along, and that's what inking is really. It's trying to finish your drawings and make them look a bit more refined and finished. And I can come back with the Sharpie marker like I'm doing now, just adding drips and stuff, that'll be like blood really, but it's the contrast in black, just a good idea. He's really digging into his fleshy skull, so I wanted to try and convey that sort of image. You can just go back and forth with different ink pens and just add more detail. There's many layers to the inking stage, and a lot of it is just trial and error sometimes. So I'll probably get to that doing them eyes soon, I think, or probably come back to that. Yeah, I tried to thicken the eyes a little bit, but then I still wasn't happy with it, so the whites of them eyes will be gone soon, which just makes the eyes look a little bit better later on. So yeah, just adding detail. I mean, my inking style is a bit sketchy sometimes. That's mainly because I'm working fast on camera and stuff like that. There has been times where I'm working really slow, and there we go, just adding the dark areas in there, it's just about back and forth, thin ink pens and thick ink pens, and just trial and error, what works, what looks good, So yeah, inking stage is a really good process for drawing. It's one that I like. There's still other sorts of textures that I'd like to get the hang of, but they come in like different, ways of applying them. You could use like paintbrushes and things for techniques like feathering, where you can do like fair type texture, or on this skull I'm doing like rotten texture, so I'm making all the ink details real sketchy looking and like lots of extra details. So that's a good way, of inking it. What I'd like to do is maybe some like dry brushing techniques more in the future. They're really good for some kind of backgrounds, or even like shadows on certain areas of your drawings and stuff like that. It can create a nice shadow that can contrast against any other detail that you apply over it. So yeah, it's a pretty good way inking a drawing. So it's not just tracing. I mean, some of it is when you're starting out, but then it isn't. It's more making your drawings more permanent, and just make a drawing that you'll be happy to hang on your wall, or for someone else to hang on their wall, if you're selling your work, things like that. The key is just to ink your drawings up to a standard that you're happy with. So yeah, there we go. I hope you like the drawing at the end. Still needed a bit more work, but